Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Enneagram series. My name is Hayden Lee. I'm a Master Certified Executive Life and Leadership Coach. And this is the Enneagram series where I've been going through many facets of the Enneagram and having fascinating guests of different Enneagram types. And this series specifically is called From Vice to Virtue, where we're going through all the vices of each type and how each type can move towards their virtue, which is their more authentic self, where they can liberate themselves from the fixations of their vice. So as a reminder, Enneagram is about behavior. It's about motivation, not behavior. I always want to remind people that it's about motivation, not behavior, because remember, you can all be, there could be different Enneagram types behaving the same way, but the motivation behind it is different. And today we're going to be talking about the vice and virtue of Enneagram Type 9, which is sometimes called the peacemaker or the adaptive peacemaker. And the motivation for the Type 9 is to keep balance and peace and harmony and to avoid conflict. So that's the motivation of the Type 9. And remember, the vice of each type is that fixation of these default patterns of behavior and thinking and feeling that are holding them back, keeping them stuck. And the virtue, like I said, is a guiding light or a lighthouse or a guidepost that we can work towards to help set us free. And today we're going to be diving into Type 9, like I said, and an awesome Enneagram Type 9, my friend Karen. So hi, Karen. If you could just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Karen. I'm an attorney, and I have been an attorney for, oh my goodness, more than 25 years.
Wow.
And I have a family. I have kids. I have pets. And I'm always looking to expand what I'm doing, if that means I'm serving others to a fault. So I'm involved in the school district, of which my kids are no longer even in. I'm involved in a number of nonprofit organizations. And I just kind of flit about between everything that I have joined.
Okay. And you're in Los Angeles, right?
Yes, I'm in Los Angeles. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I think everything you just said actually is a good segue into the vice of the Type 9. So Karen and I have worked together, and I know all about her Type 9-ness. And the 9s are wonderful as the peacemaker, right? Keeping that balance and the peace and the harmony. However, the vice of the Type 9 is self-forgetting. And self-forgetting, and a little bit, Karen's already describing keeping very busy, definitely doing lots of actions, but self-forgetting is the vice of doing so much, but forgetting her own wants and needs, or forgetting about her own goals and aspirations, and taking lots of actions, but not necessarily for herself or to advance her own agenda, her own career, her own desires and needs. So tell us a little bit about how the vice of self-forgetting resonates and applies to you.
So I think, in many ways you want a 9 as a lawyer, because we don't matter to ourselves. We only matter for our clients. Your needs will always come before ours. And that is a great thing if you're a client. It's not a great thing when you're the lawyer and you don't eat, you don't take care of yourself, you don't get your hair done. We tend not to look inward as much, at least for me. I'm always looking outward. It's very rare. I don't really have many mirrors in the house. I don't really pay attention to what I wear every day often, especially during the pandemic, but I'm always thinking about what I need to be doing for others, for work, for my family, for my kids, both of whom are in college and aren't even here. I'm still thinking about them every day, and I don't focus on my own needs, and taking care of myself and doing the big picture things that I should be doing, career-wise or, family-wise or house-wise, because I'm putting out fires that I decide need to be put out that may not even be on fire. That's kind of the vice. It's almost a curse that I'm spotlight. I feel like sometimes I'm a spotlight looking around for things to do that for other, does my husband need more of the drink he loves? Does my daughter need something at school? And does she have enough paper? You know, I need to solve this. And, you know, meanwhile, you know, my desk is a mess. And I haven't showered in days, you know, I mean, kind of things where when it gets bad because everyone else is taken care of but me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm chuckling a little bit, you know, because, you know, there's a, you know, we find humor in this situation, but ultimately it's a vice that could really get in our way, right? And for the nine, sometimes we say it's falling asleep to oneself. And you even alluded to it, is like, you know, the nine sometimes can forget that she does matter, right? That she has needs, she
Or
has
even
dreams, she has, or even exists, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like I'm like a vapor flying around.
Yeah.
I don't have a physical body that needs healthy food, or I don't have a physical body that needs exercise or needs the hairbrush, or, you know, all of that. It's like I don't exist. And it's not in a bad, like, it's not depressing, although it does lead to bitterness, because what happens is you run around doing things for everyone because I don't exist. And I'm doing it. And then I'm mad because I'm not getting recognized for it, or even acknowledged. I mean, I do by my professional clients, which keeps me going, but it can be hard because, you know, it's a little self-defeating. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it reminds me, there's, you know, kind of three main emotions of the Enneagram, right? There's sadness, there's fear, and then there's anger. And oftentimes, you know, type nines, they really are for the most part, very easygoing and go with the flow. But yeah, you're alluding to it. The main emotion that nines actually grapple with, it is that anger, right? And it's that anger of not even knowing that she's angry sometimes, or even taking a while to be like, wait a second, I'm pissed, you know, not even knowing that you're pissed, you know, because there is that falling asleep to yourself, forgetting your own emotions, forgetting your own needs. And something, Karen, go ahead. Did you want to add to that?
No, I'm listening.
I just wanted to say something interesting that you alluded to as well is, you're always looking externally, right? Like, kind of like, what can I do for others? What can I do for others? And the reason why that is that self-forgetting, or that falling asleep to oneself, is not being in tune with, there is an inner conflict happening within you and you don't even know it's happening, but it's there, which is like your desires or your own needs are not getting met, and you're not attuning to it, you're not paying attention to it, but it's there. So there's this inner conflict of like wanting to get stuff done for you, but not doing it. And then having this, you know, not taking time to really get to know yourself, why you're not doing it, like, because it's hard to confront yourself. So the best way to deflect is focus on others.
Yeah. And so a lot of, you know, sometimes what occurs to me is that I know what I need to do for myself, but I haven't earned it. That's something that comes up a lot. It's like, well, you know, once I do this for everyone else, then I can turn to myself. And ultimately I don't, because the day ends or the month ends or whatever. It's like, it's almost like depriving myself of almost like basic joys of totally self-centered actions, like art, you know, like taking up a hobby that's just intrinsically just for me. You know, I always feel like, well, I need to do this so I can make it for, you know, my kid, or I need, you know, like somehow there has to be like, to your point, the motivation is external. It's doing things externally to the point that I deny myself internal, because I feel like it's maybe selfish, or it feels icky, you know, like just to do something for myself. And then I see everyone around me doing things for themselves and they're perfectly happy. You know, whether it's hobbies or, you know, what they, you know, buy at their store. Like when I go to the store, I'm thinking, what does everyone want at the store? I feel like no one else is thinking that, you know?
Yeah.
So, and there you get to the anger. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing and just being so open and transparent. I love it. I want to point out though, when the motivation of the nine, like I said, is to keep balance or harmony. But there's the avoiding conflict piece, and I think part of it too is, you may forget yourself, but there's a part of you about wanting to avoid conflict, right? Because if you do go for what you want or state your needs, or whatever, there's, whether it's conscious or subconscious, it's like the conflict of, oh, is this going to disrupt things? Are people going to be angry at me? Are they going to judge me or whatever? So can you tell me a little bit about how avoiding conflict adds to the forgetting about what you want?
Yeah, so definitely. So there's the avoiding conflict with me, which is I need them to like me constantly, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's the avoiding and helping them not feel yucky. So I don't want my husband to be thirsty. So I need to make sure
Okay.
that he has a drink. I don't want my kid to struggle. So I have to figure that all out. And I
Yeah.
don't want my dog to be bored. So I have to run around and do that. And, especially with my work clients, I definitely don't want them to feel in any way that they are lacking in what they need. And that anxiety leads me to constantly be searching to help avoid what I think of as conflict. But ultimately, it is definitely the feeling that somehow I can solve everyone's problems.
Yeah.
And that if my husband, for instance, doesn't have the drinks in the fridge that he wants, I have failed. So somehow what I've done is I've created a situation where I am single-handedly keeping everybody up. And it's really a fictional self-importance, but it's what I'm doing. And I think I do it because, to your point, goes to the motivating, is it's hard to turn that off because it's so ingrained in me to be acting this way. And again, it makes me, I think, a good lawyer. But it also makes me, I think, a frenetic parent and a frenetic wife. And because I'm like, my eyes are wide, I'm like, okay, what am I, what's my next to-do list? And I think everyone's like, I don't need anything. Like, I'm not judging you based on this. Like, it's a fear of conflict, but it's literally, for the most part, all in my head. And that's a little bit why it gets crazy.
I'll have to look back at your report, because I hear a lot of the type 2 coming out. Type 2 is the helper, right? Because the type 2's motivation is to be liked and appreciated. So I think I recall, though, that your main type is the 9 to keep the balance, and your secondary type is the 2, which is to be liked and appreciated. So it's almost like a double whammy. It's like you feel all this pressure that it's your job to keep balance and harmony in the house. It's your job to keep balance and harmony at work. And then there's the 2 of you where you really like to be liked and appreciated. So it's like this double whammy of service, focusing on others, but then at the expense of it being totally disharmonious and yourself, right? There's like inside your brain and inside your heart, it's like crazy town. So it's like, does that make sense? That the peace of others is at the expense of your own peace, is what my point is.
Absolutely. That is absolutely what's going on.
Well, which is a good segue, though, to the virtue, right? Because so the virtue of, like I tell everyone, is that guiding light, or that light post for us to strive for, to touch upon, that will help us be our more full, authentic self. And for type 9, the virtue is called right action, right? Which is to be clear what you want, to state your needs. First of all, taking time to get clear what you want, right? Even taking that time to, really articulate what is it that I want? What do I truly desire? And then taking action towards that, right? And to take action every day, just even a little action towards what Karen wants, what Karen needs, both personally and professionally, right? And we call it right action because peacemakers are action takers. I mean, you're busy all day, every day. But then if you were to like measure how many of those actions is for you, I'm sure there wouldn't be that many, right?
No.
So
So,
Tell us about how right action, doing things for you for your hopes, your
yes,
dreams, your needs, how that's going to help you actually be more authentic, to be more of who you want to
yes,
become.
yes. And so I've been working on that with your help, but at the same time, I've been working on even little things like looking at myself in the mirror. I mean, like it's really is like, in many ways, I don't exist
Yeah.
in a physical sense, in a my own thing sense. And so forcing myself to take 10 minutes to just do some gardening that doesn't involve anyone else, going to, the nursery and buying flowers and coming home and planting them, not because I'm doing it for anyone but me, um,
Yeah.
is hard, but it's the stuff I have to work on, which is literally the things that are just intrinsically for me. Not to mention the things that like will help further my career and, those types of things, but things that like exercising, right? So the way to get me to exercise is to say your kids, it would be meaningful to your kids, or you'll set a good example,
Yeah.
rather than you need to exercise because you're a human being and you need to exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I've tried to do in my brain is take the try to change a little bit the motivation so that I'm trying to do things more just for me. It is really,
Yeah.
it is really hard. Because I can do the same thing if I have the motivation be extrinsic.
Yeah.
But having it be intrinsic is an uncomfortable feeling for me. And I realize I've probably been like this forever.
Yeah.
And so it is hard being stuck in a 9 because to take action just to focus on me, I went earlier today to Target and I was looking at hair color because it's been so long since I've been to the salon because of the pandemic. And I ended up not buying any because I couldn't decide. But then I'm like, well, I don't really, it doesn't matter. Like that's something
Yeah.
that I say a lot to myself is it really doesn't matter if you do your
Yeah.
hair. When it probably does, I mean,
Yeah.
like these are things that I just put. And meanwhile, I went and bought everyone else shampoo and made sure everyone had
Yeah.
a toothpaste, right? So that's just like even in little day-to-day decisions, making decisions that are simply for me. They're hard. It's a very hard thing to do. What
Yeah.
you're the virtue.
No, I hear you, and I feel the struggle, and I know being a mom too, right, having a family, I know it all contributes to that. But what I want to add though is when you put in the effort to take that right action, the virtue of the 9, you're able to live life more fully, right? Because
Yes.
ultimately, like I said, the vice of self-forgetting is being asleep to yourself. And then
Yes.
when you can wake up, right? Wake up and experience life fully, like get your hair done, color your hair, say what you want at work, do what you want without your kids, sometimes without your husband, because that's living life fully. And that's when 9s really come alive, right? Because
Yeah.
9s actually can be incredible leaders. They can be incredible forces of nature when they get clear on what they want and they go for it, right? Rather than,
Right.
I think we've had this conversation sometimes too. It's kind of like floating through life. Like you kind of float through life and you kind of do this and you do
Right.
that. And we've been talking about like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll eat that today. And maybe I'll do this. Like kind of
Right.
rather than being decisive and this is what I want today. This is what I'm going to do. I mean, it's just a whole different energy that you can bring, so when 9s step up to that right action, like I said, they can be forces to, so I'm
Well,
sure
and I
you've
have
had
felt
it.
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
You
No,
felt it.
and I
You
have
felt it
felt
before.
that. And again, with
Yeah.
your help, I have felt that um it's just so easy to fall back into my,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, today I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go walk on the treadmill, then I'm going to eat my fruit. And I'm not going to check my email until a certain period of the day.
Yeah.
Like that is something I've been working on recently. Because, and that time is only for me. That is for my time to decide what I'm doing that day, what my goals are. And then the minute I check my email, it's like everything is crazy again, right? I'm now reacting. I'm in reacting mode, and I will be there until bedtime. But what I've tried to do is take that first slot of the day and not check my email until like 9 a.m.
Right.
And that allows me to kind of meander through the house. And sometimes it's not with a plan, but sometimes it's, and I'm trying to make it more structured so that I can do the things that I know I physically need to do to be a healthy person. But it's hard. It's hard because there's always that spotlight. Like I really have to physically turn off the spotlight where I'm searching for things to do. Like, oh, the laundry. I need to do my husband's laundry. I don't need to do his laundry. But there I am. It's like, because it puts off working out, which is what I need to do for me. And it's almost like I have to literally mentally think about physically turning off the spotlight so that I can do what I need to do for me. And once I allow myself in, I'm like, wow, this feels really good. I can make plans. I can make decisions. I'm doing something I enjoy. I'm outside gardening, which is just for me. And again, I'm thinking, oh, everyone's going to be mad I'm outside gardening. No one cares. Everyone's happy for me. Like this is what they want for me. This is, again, these are games that
it is
play with each other, with themselves. These are head games. And
so when you find yourself in the vice, how can you move to the virtue? How can, what's the journey? Like when you find yourself in the vice, you're forgetting about your own needs. How can you move to remembering to take right action?
So there are a few things, and they are physical things. So especially during the pandemic, I go for walks. I literally physically exit. So that's a huge thing that I've been doing is I'm in the kitchen. I start realizing I start amping up to what do I need to do for everybody? And I'm like, just stop and go outside physically, leave the house. Because then when I walk in, I'll feel a little differently, and maybe I'll have some perspective, and maybe I'll go back to going back to the goal that I had for the day. And again, a huge thing that has been working for me is I spend the first couple hours of every day only focusing on, like, I don't look at my phone. I don't get sucked into Twitter. I don't get sucked into all these things. And then the other thing is that I think it's the 5-second rule that I listened to that recently, but this idea where I know I need to work out, but I'm not going to, I'm going to go find these other things to do. It's like, no, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go work out. Just physically take action. To your point, actions, even when it's like pulling me along, those things are working for me because they reset my brain from all the anxieties that I feel not doing things for other people. But at the same time, I love doing things for other people, and I get sucked into it all the time, and it's really fun. And, I just talked about a project that I now want to do that involves helping others get to where they want to be, right? Like I'm facilitating. That's kind of my thing. I love that. So to your point, I do have that strength. It's just, I don't need to 24/7 facilitate. I can facilitate 4 hours a day instead of 24. And then the rest of the time, garden or do something that's just for me.
What would you like what do you need to remember about yourself?
That I exist. That I exist the same as they do. All these people. That I exist physically on the earth. And it's a very strange thing to say that, but that's how I feel. That is a hard thing to remember for me.
It's powerful though. I'm getting some chills as you say that, because it's easy for a 9 to just slip into the background and, for lack of a better word, sometimes be invisible, right? And then as you're describing, a lot of it is sometimes kind of self-produced, right? Or self-invoked.
Yeah.
So when you remember that you exist, though, what will that do for you?
Yeah. So if I remember I exist, then what it does is it puts my needs on equal footing to others, as a person on this earth. I mean,
Yeah.
um, and then that allows me to make decisions for myself, about myself.
Yeah.
Certainly involving diet. I'm throwing out diet and exercise a lot, but just,
Yeah.
hobbies, taking on a new hobby, between being a 9 and like the perfectionism, I think, it's hard for me to take on a new hobby because I'm not good at it yet, and so it's easy for me to be like, well, I'll just get to it later. It's too frustrating. Oh, but look, someone else needs dinner, so,
Yeah.
and I surround myself with groups that need me, so that I can keep the spotlight off of myself. And so
Yeah.
what I need to do is just remember I exist too, and I will be so much happier, and I have been happier when I allow myself to have my own needs and goals and meet them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to offer the perspective as well with, your motivation to want to keep everything balanced and harmonious. My offer to you is to remember when you don't take care of your own needs, that actually leads to imbalance and disharmony in the household because you're part of the equation, whether you like it or not,
Oh
even though
yeah.
you don't, you know what I'm talking. So there's actually imbalance when you don't account for your own wants and needs.
No, absolutely. And I think probably I'm really annoying, right? To sometimes because I'm like the one who shows up and, hi, well, do you need, can I get you anything? It's like, no, why don't you go do something? Go
Yeah.
do what you need to do. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you watching me? Why is everyone, and, I mean, I'm the person who, when I'm in a club with you and you're like, okay, how are we going to do this banquet? I'm like, I'm in, let's do it, and that's the part I love. And but at the same time, I need to, at the same time, balance, right?
Yeah.
Create more of a balance with the folks, with what I'm doing, with what they're doing. And I have people in my life that have a very good example of that. My husband, for instance, is really good at this. And I watch him, and at the same time as I resent him, I'm jealous because he can just spend an hour doing something for himself, and I'm not doing that, and I'm resentful, but at the same time I'm jealous because he has the clarity to say, now I need to do this for myself.
Yeah.
And I've never had that, and I blame him for it, but it's not him, it's me.
Yeah.
It's completely me. And so I just have to keep having this conversation with myself and step out of myself in the sense that, and really focus on, what do I want to do? And it's hard because, what I want to do is things for you, Hayden.
Yeah.
And, as we work together, I kept talking about, well, how are you? What are you up to? What could, it's like, I don't want it on me. I don't want to I don't want to take a selfie. And that's the hardest part, is turning the camera. My kids selfies all the time. I don't want to. And I need to.
Yeah. I think that's I love that. You've used that metaphor before, to turn the camera onto yourself. And it is hard because that's the work that you need to do, is to really get clear on looking at yourself and looking inside yourself, which is the hardest thing ever and the most uncomfortable thing ever. But it's the work that needs to be done that's going to help you live a fuller life, right? To live the fuller expression. So, well, thank you so much, Karen. I mean, this has been awesome chatting with you as a 9 from Vice to Virtue. What would you like to say to your final words as we wrap up right now?
Just thank you very much for everything that you have, done for me so far. And, I really value knowing you, and what you can bring to folks like me. And to all the 9s out there, I feel you. It's not easy being a 9, I think. And you know, turning the camera on yourself is a struggle, and may always be a struggle, but I think it's important. You know,
Yeah.
look in the mirror. Look in
I
the mirror.
love it. Yeah, literally and figuratively, I
You
think.
exist on this earth.
Yes. I love that. You exist and you matter and you're important too, just like
Yeah.
every other person on earth. So,
Yeah.
nice. Well, thank you, Karen, very much. This was awesome, and thank you, viewers, for watching this Enneagram series. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button or the like button. On my YouTube channel is Hayden Lee Coaching, and you can visit me on my website haydenlee.com. That's HAYDENLEE.com, and you could look into my Enneagram groups where we meet every 2 weeks and we discuss your Enneagram types and we learn more about each other. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Karen, so much for joining us today. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.